One of the central arguments of this book, what is the flat? Really, the flat is my just shorthand for the rise of middle classes all over the world. And it's these middle classes that are increasingly able to live like Americans. It's really the rise of these middle classes that is tipping us into a new era. Because if this many people are able to live like Americans, the energy and environment implications will be explosive.
Jerry Yang, the co-founder of Yahoo, quoted a senior Chinese government officer as saying, and I quote, "Where people have hope, you have a middle class," unquote. Middle class is another way to describe people who believe that they have a pathway out of poverty or low income status towards a higher standard of living and a better future for their kids. You can be in the middle class in your head, whether you make $2 a day or $200. If you believe in social mobility, that your kids have a chance to live better than you do, and that hard work and playing by the rules of your society will get you where you want to go.
We've got 100,000 people out there trying 100,000 things in 100,000 garages. Who knows what will come out of that?
The old left forces wanted to spark a debate about whether we globalize. They claim to speak in the name of the third world poor, but the bankrupt economic policies they advocated made them, in my view, the coalition of keeping poor people poor. So, as the how we globalize forces drifted away, and as the number of third world people benefited from globalizations began to grow, and as America under the Bush administration began to exercise more unilateral military power, the anti-American element in the anti-globalization movement began to assume a much louder voice and role. Maureen Conway, HP's Vice President for Emerging Market Solutions, stated, and I quote, "When people, particularly people who are illiterate, says something and it gets immediately represented on the wall, they feel really validated, and therefore they get more animated and more engaged."
To go into their garage and try something.
Freeman's concept regarding the garage is there is not just the flat world and the unflat world. Many people live in the twilight zone between the two. Among these are the people I call the two disempowered. They are a large group of people who have not been fully encompassed by the flattening of the world. These voters were not saying, and I quote, "Stop the globalization train, we want to get off," end quote. They were saying, and I quote, "Stop the globalization train, we want to get on. But someone needs to help us by building a better step stool," end quote.
Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people to be working on alternatives because we create the market conditions for them to do that. I'm a big believer, you create those incentives, those conditions, we will find an answer.
One of the unintended consequences of the flat world is that it puts different societies and cultures in much greater direct contact with one another. It connects people to people much faster than people and cultures can often prepare themselves. Some cultures thrive on the sudden opportunity to collaborate that this global intimacy makes possible. Others are threatened, frustrated, and even humiliated by the close contact, which, among other things, make it very easy for people to see where they stand in the world vis-a-vis everyone else. So we say, we are technologists. Let's get a solar panel and put it on a backpack on wheels and see if there is a business for people here. And for Hewlett Packard, if we can make a mobile photo studio. Therefore, we'll summarize by saying the world is flat and is getting flatter. The more people connect, the flatter the world becomes.
And because people invent the alternatives.
As Friedman has articulated to us this evening, whatever the innovation, people will find a way to use it and abuse it. The history of economic development teaches this over and over. If you can do it, you must do it. Otherwise, your competitor will. And as this book has tried to demonstrate, there is a whole new universe of things that companies, countries, and individuals can and must do to thrive in a flat world. Equally important, there is no question that China and India are better off for having at least part of their population in the flat world. It is this dynamics that is going on in part of the urban India and urban China today, enabling people to compete on a level playing field and attracting investment dollars by the billions. The world will be entirely flat only when all these people are brought into one. In summary, and I quote from Sir Winston Churchill of London, England, to build may have to be the slow and laborious task of years. To destroy can be the thoughtless act of a single day. Therefore, continue to flatten your world. While America slept and became overconfident, when we awoke, we saw the enemy, and it was us. The U.S. was the economic fat cat and forgot. When the sun comes up, you better start running or you will be eaten or left behind. An American auto part manufacturer in China posted the following African proverb translated into Mandarin on the factory floor. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion or it will be killed. Every morning, a lion wakes up. It knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve to death. It doesn't matter whether you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better start running. Globalization changed the core economic concept. Here are some flatteners. The collapse of the Berlin Wall on 11/9/89. This allowed people from the other side of the wall, which is the West, to join the economic mainstream. The workflow software, computer to computer, with less human close contact. This is flattening the technology workload. And flatteners. Netscape went public at $28 a share in 8/9/95. It was 6 years later, after the wall fell in 11/9/89. This made the internet accessible to everyone from 5 to 95 years old. Uploading communities, uploading and collaborating on online projects. Outsourcing is cost effective. This is a quiet crisis. Globalization update changed the core of economic concept. Flatness we compared. That was the collapse of the Berlin Wall on 11/9/89. There was a flattener called 9/11/2001. The workflow software, which was computer to computer with less human close contact. That became outsourcing is cost effective. And this is a quiet crisis. This is not a test. We're speaking about the world is flat. Tom L. Friedman thinks, being an American, I am focused on the USA and how do we go about maximizing the benefits and opportunities of the flat world. I offer compassionate flatism, which is a blend of policy building around 5 categories of action for the age of flat. We're looking at leadership, muscle building, cushioning, social activism, and parenting. The job of the politician in America, whether at the local, state, or national level, should be, in good part, to help educate and explain to people what world they are living in and what they need to do if they want to thrive within it. Since lifetime employment is a form of fat that a flat world simply cannot sustain any longer, compassionate flatism should focus its energy on how government and business can enhance every worker's lifetime employment. While many of the old corporate and government safety net will vanish under global competition in the flat world, some fat still needs to be maintained and even added. As everyone who worries about his or her health knows, there is good fat and bad fat, but everybody needs some fat in it. One new area that is going to need sorting out is the relationship between global corporations and their own moral consciousness. Some may laugh at the notion that a global corporation even has a moral conscience, or should even be expected to develop one. No discussion of compassionate flatism would be complete without also discussing the need for improving parenting. Helping individuals adapt to a flat world is not only the job of government and companies, it is also the job of parents. They too need to know in what world their kids are going to grow up in and what it will take for them to thrive. Putting it simply, we need a new generation of parents ready to administer tough love. There comes a time when you need to get away from the television, get rid of the Game Boy, put away the iPad, and get your kids down to work. The economics of it all. In a sense, the world is flat because it is about economics. Are you a great collaborator? Do you speak the receiver's language? Can you explain what your needs are? Are you a great adapter? Do you stay one step ahead of the competition? Are you willing to go green in your technology? We can make it cheaper than you. Can you level the economic playing field? Are you a great localizer? Do you stay tuned to the business at hand?
We have in our studios Tom Friedman, the Foreign Affairs columnist of New York Times and author of World is Flat. Tom, welcome back.
Great to be here again, Nine. I caught a wave, Nine, and so what was
that wave?
What was that wave? And I guess the best way I could summarize it is that it's a wave of anxiety. It's a wave that basically I would describe like this. Our parents were sure that they were going to live better than their parents, and they were just as sure that we, their children, were going to live better than them. Our generation is now coming to retirement, worried that we may not retire as well as our parents. And you know what? Our kids may not live as well as we do. And I think that anxiety that we are now being touched by people who never touched us before, we're competing with people who we never competed with before, and fortunately we're collaborating with people we've never been able to collaborate with before. But for all those reasons, there is a wave of anxiety out there, that there's a lot of things changing. A lot of traditional boundaries are being eliminated. Competition is much more intense, and gosh, I wonder if my kids are going to live as well as me.
So
And I would say the known, because it's a fear of what people see as real competition now, coming from corners that they've never seen it before, coming into the white-collar realm, not just the blue-collar realm, where we've become used to it, and not knowing where it stops. So suddenly, so many more things seem to be able to be digitized, automated, or outsourced. Where that stops or starts, I think, has a lot of people concerned.
Now, how do you see the U.S. high-tech companies adjusting to this flat world?
Well, you know, the good news is everything I learned about the flat world, I really learned from companies. I learned from CEOs and CIOs and CTOs who were doing it. But two things were happening. One is they were doing it, but they weren't talking about it. Because no one who wanted to talk about outsourcing.
Right.
And it's one of the kind of reasons I walked into a vacuum on this book, an intellectual vacuum, is that the people who are doing it, and boy, they're doing it, and they're doing it at the cutting edge. And thank goodness, because they're really driving American competitiveness and companies forward. But they didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to talk about it. So one of the fortunate things I was able to do was to go in and get them to talk about it, and then kind of put it all together. And that really, you know, if I've gotten feedback from any group, any single group, more than any other, is from American educators, school superintendents, teachers, and whatnot, all of whom, you know, sense that we're not really staying at the cutting edge, that we are getting this competition, and everyone now strategizing about it. It's actually quite exciting. There's an incredible amount of experimentation going on in education in America today. I'm actually an optimist. I'm actually much more optimistic today than when you and I talked about the book a year ago. Is what I call, on education, on what I call the new middle. That is, we knew what the old middle class jobs were. Well, I would argue that in the flat world, with certain things being outsourced and digitized, we now really want to think about what are the new middle jobs. I'll go through them very quickly for you. One is great collaborators, okay? When so many more things are going to be made in global supply chains, the ability to be a great collaborator, to be able to work cross-culturally and multinationally, it's going to be a huge number of jobs around managing and coordinating these global supply chains. Second are great leveragers, people who can leverage technology. So one person can do the job of 20 rather than competing with India or China where 20 people might do the job of one. So you make up for the labor cost by leveraging technology. Third are great explainers. Boy, there's going to be a whole industry in explaining because there's enormous complexity out there. So whether you're a teacher, a manager, a journalist, the ability to explain this complexity is going to be in huge demand. Fourth, I would call great localizers. Great localizers are people who can localize the global. What does that mean? They can take the power of this global platform and turn it into a local business. Fifth, I would say, are going to be people who are great adapters. Okay, people who can basically stay one step ahead of the forces of digitization and automation. And that's going to apply to a lot of people in a lot of industries. Six would be people who are what I would call passionate personalizers. If you can bring real passion and a personal touch to any vanilla task, there's going to be a job for you in the flat world. Seventh, I would call anything green. 9, anything green. And there is a job for you in the 21st century.
India is showing anxiety that its education system is falling behind. And recently you were in India, so what did you find about Indian education system?
Well, it was interesting. I was at NASSCOM, the Indian High Tech Association's annual meeting, and full of some of the brainiest, most innovative people in India. But the buzz, the subterranean buzz I found there was really all about woe is me, basically. You need a mindset that's questioning, that's innovative, that's synthesizing. And Indian education has been very good for pounding in those fundamentals. We know that. Nobody does it better. It's been great at getting people who know how to do the how. But it has not been great for creating people to know to ask the what. Is this the end of something or the beginning of something? I think it's the end of something.
The World is Flat, an interview with Thomas L. Friedman. YouTube video clips, transcripts of the interview. Protest. Small people unite. You're looking for people power from rural India, China, Africa, Latin America, Pakistan, and any other oppressed nation. The world will be evenly flat when people with enough dollars stand up to make a difference. Protest. Being flat is good, but full of pressure. Being unflat is awful and full of pain. But being half flat has special anxieties. You see it, you can touch it, you can occasionally benefit from the flat world, but still on the outside. These individuals are not saying, stop the globalization train, we want to get off. They are saying, stop the train, we want to get on, but someone needs to build a better footstool. The Tipping Point. We all have read the book, or we will read it in the near future. There is a train a-coming. You need to run. You don't need no ticket. You just get on board. Running is the key. Supersizing is the key. I'm loving it is the key. The world is flat is the key. People get ready. It's people power. Your ticket is your ability to collaborate. You just get on board because there is a train a-coming to see a flat world. The world is flat. Can you help me find the cheese? After reading The World is Flat, I find myself in awe. We started this program on August 18th and 19th, 2011, looking for our cheese. How can cheese make the world flat? Does cheese make the world flat? I say yes, it does, because we have found ourselves. We are great collaborators. We are able to speak the receiver's language. We have an ability to, as cohorts, to work together. So we are going to time of reflections. In summary, you're leaving a digital cultural divide. Don't become a victim. I wish to present a syllabus to the courts for consideration. May I approach the bench? Judge Tobin is flattening the academic world of EDOL 75920 by giving extra credit assignment. I rest my case.